Audiobooks have become like my favorite way to read. Hey book besties, welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to be rounding up my favorite audiobook recommendations. So if you're an audiobook reader or you want to be, make sure you stick around for these book recs. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and stick around for more book content. I love sharing reading recommendations like this one, reading wrap-ups, book reviews, and all the fun bookish things. So make sure you're following along. So one of the things that I've really gotten into, especially this year, is immersive reading. I think most of the books I've read, like more than half, I've been immersive reading with, whether that's full immersive reading or just part of the way, and it is so much fun. I feel like listening to an audiobook, whether you're like just listening to it or reading along with the physical book or an ebook, really elevates the experience and helps you lock in on the characters, on the setting, and everything that's going on. But I will say it definitely depends on the narrator, because I have read some books where the narration wasn't great, and I think it did affect the reading experience, but on a whole, I do think it's elevated it for me, and I just love it so much. So these books I'm going to be rounding up are all books that I loved the audio experience. And some of them are 5-star reads, some of them are maybe 4-star reads, but overall, the common denominator is the audio experience, and I am so excited to share these books with you. So I have books from like a lot of different genres here that I'll share with you. And first up, we'll do historical fiction books. And coincidentally, all of these historical fiction books were narrated by the same person, Julia Whelan. She is definitely one of my top narrators. I love the way she tells a story. She's so good at doing the voices of different characters and also just making you feel so deeply for the characters you're reading about. I love it so much. First up is Atmosphere. This book was so gripping, and the ending was absolutely beautiful. I loved my experience reading this book. And I will say this is a book I wasn't necessarily sure would be my thing because it deals a lot with like space. But the way Julia Whelan narrated this, it felt, and I guess how Taylor Jenkins Reid wrote it, it felt really easy to grasp and follow along with. So I really appreciated that. And the emotions I went through in this book were so good. Next, I have 2 Kristen Hanna books, also narrated by Julia Whelan. First is The Great Alone. This was actually my first Kristen Hanna book, and it was such a beautiful story. It is really thick, and listening to it really helped me like lock into the story and feel really connected to these characters and this family. And I will say that was the same experience I had with The Four Winds. Such a great reading experience, and the way that Julia Whelan narrated the character, actually dual POV with mother and then her daughter who is like a teenager, and Julia Whelan did a great job of differentiating the characters in a really relatable way. It was so beautiful. And next for thriller reads, first up is This Story Might Save Your Life. Now, this is a story that has a podcast element to it. And if there's a book with a podcast element, I highly recommend doing the audio with it or an immersive read, because a lot of times the audio has like some elements of podcasts to it. So if that's like in the book, there's like a podcast that's being shared, podcast style will be how the audio is, which is so great. And that's how this one was. This is a story about 2 podcasters and one of them goes missing. And so you're kind of going through what happened in the past with the 2 of them. And there were clips from their podcast that actually sounded like a podcast. So it was such a cool way to really lock into the story. I loved it. And I will say that I wasn't really totally into much immersive reading when I've read other books that had podcasts, specifically Listen for the Lie and None of This Is True. And I wish I had done immersive reads with those, because having the podcast element for those ones would have been fantastic. So if you have books with podcast elements on your TBR, definitely snag the audio if you can, because it just makes the experience so much better. And next is The Only One Left. This book is narrated by my favorite narrator, Christine Lakin. She's actually used to be an actress. I don't know if she still acts, but I loved her as a kid on the show Step by Step. And her voice is just so intriguing. Like, I actually used to listen to her podcast like years ago when she used to have one, and I just love listening to her voice. And I'm so happy that I found like books that she's narrated, because she does a really great job of, again, capturing these characters and just telling a really powerful story. And this book here was so like gripping, and the way that Christine Lakin narrates thriller books specifically, I can just feel like my heart pounding. Like it totally makes the experience that much more thrilling to me. I love it. Next, I have two dystopian books. First is The Testaments. Now, this is the follow-up to The Handmaid's Tale, and this book did come out in 2019, so it was after the show had started. And this story, we're following three characters, one of which is Aunt Lydia. And the narrator for Aunt Lydia's POV in this book is Ann Dowd, who plays Aunt Lydia on the show. So that element in of itself was so cool because Aunt Lydia was actually reading the part of Aunt Lydia. So it was a really cool way to drop into the character and be so connected to this book and this story and hear the continuation of this character. It was so good. And I will say that the other narrators in the book were fantastic as well. So it was just a great audio listen. And next is Sunrise on the Reaping. This book is actually narrated by Jefferson White. He's an actor. He was actually in the show Yellowstone. And when I heard that he was narrating the book, I was like, I'm not sure how I can see that. But he did such a good job. This book is part of the Hunger Games series, and this is a prequel following Haymitch's story. And let me tell you, this narrator did a fantastic job of capturing Haymitch's voice. Now, obviously, like, we know Haymitch from the first three Hunger Games movies. It's played by Woody Harrelson. And the way Jefferson, like, narrated this, I could totally see him as Haymitch. As like a younger Haymitch and an older Haymitch, like the way he did his voice, it was so freaking good. And I will say too, like the voices he did for other characters were really good. Sometimes with a narrator, like especially if it's a male narrator, hearing them talk in like a younger child's voice or a female's voice can be like a little cringy, but he did such a great job. It was so good. And there was even some like songs or like poems in here that required a certain cadence as he was reading it, and he did a great job with it. It was just so well done, and I feel it really elevated the story for me. It was great. My last three recommendations are all romance reads. So first, I have a little Christmas one for you. Merry Christmas, You Filthy Animal. This one is hilarious. Megan Quinn knows how to do rom-com, and the way the narrators spoke during these moments in the story just made the experience that much funnier. Like, these two characters are so awkward during certain interactions with each other, and the narrators did a great job of actually conveying that awkwardness that had me cackling. It was so good. Next is Love is an Open Book. This is a friends to lovers romance, and I feel like these narrators did a great job of making you feel like these two people were like very good friends. The vibes and the tension were so there. It was just so well done. You could really feel how these characters felt just through the narration. It was really well done. And last is Wildcard. Let me tell you, this is probably one of the best audiobooks that I've read where the narrators were so very much their characters. Like the way the voices spoke really aligned with who these people were. And this is the fourth book in an interconnected standalone series. So we have met these characters before, so I kind of knew a little bit about them. And I'll be honest, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about their story, but I loved it so much. And I think part of that is because the narrators did such a great job of becoming these people. It was so well done. And I will say that one of the narrators in this one, the male narrator, Connor Crace, he is one of my favorite narrators, so I really enjoyed that part too. It's just so good. So those are all of my audiobook recommendations for you. If you have any audiobooks that you recommend, please let me know in the comments because, like I said, I am very much in my audiobook era right now. I love it. I cannot get enough. Thanks for watching, besties. I'll see you next time.